So, an instructional coach I know was sitting in a team meeting a few years ago. And the meeting was not a team meeting, it was a school-wide meeting. Professional development around mindset, the mindset of teachers and the mindset of students. And during that conversation about mindset, one teacher stood up, or at least got people's attention, and said, well, let me tell you what the real issue is here. She said, the real issue is some cultures don't care about education. And she said, let me break it down more specifically for you, she said. She said, African Americans, they don't care about education. Now that instructional coach just happened to be reading Better Conversation. She was reading about responding to toxic conversations. And she listened to what that teacher said, and she said, I hope somebody responds, because what she just said is racist. In fact, if you look up racism in the dictionary, you'll see that when you label a whole group as inferior or superior, you're being racist. Now that coach waited for somebody to respond, but nobody responded. And in fact, other people piled on. Other people said, yes, those students are too loud, they're noisy. All of those people in different cultures, and several comments about different cultures. And finally she said, enough. She said, I can't believe what you're saying. What you're saying is racist. And she said, in fact, I was in Lawrence, Kansas, having dinner in a restaurant there, and the loudest group I've ever seen was a group of white, young sorority girls, the table over. We couldn't even talk, they were so loud. So let's not paint a brush over a whole group. And I'd like to tell you that person, when she spoke up, changed the school, and that everybody saw the error of their ways, and everything was different, but it wasn't that way. In fact, she ended up not working at the school after that year. But what did happen is, and one of the people who was piling on and talking about the problems with the particular cultural groups was a first-year teacher. And the next day they had a special meeting to discuss race in the school. And the first-year teacher stood up and said, yesterday, when I heard what I had said, and I heard Lindsay confront us about the way we were talking, he said, I realized I'd been ignorant. He said, I realized I was not doing the right thing. He said, that's not the best version of me. I can do better than that. And he said, and I'm going to work with Lindsay as my coach, and I'm going to try to move forward, and I'm going to try to get better. And he did work with her. But probably not only that teacher, other teachers in that school who will have thousands of students realize that what they were saying was racist, and they stopped. And so the question I'm going to ask you is, when you hear racism, when you hear sexist comments, when you hear homophobic comments, when you hear human beings treated hatefully, what are you going to do? Are you going to let it go? Or are you going to take it on? Are you going to confront it? Show the courage necessary to move the world forward. It's important to build connections. It's important to have empathy for the other side, to find common ground, to listen. But it's important to stop hatred when we hear it. And so I want to give you a suggestion on how to do it, because what happens is when a hateful comment comes up, we're usually not ready for it. If somebody slips out some little racist comment, for example, we might not be prepared for it. So what I suggest you do is you think carefully about what kinds of conversations for you are non-negotiably wrong conversations, hateful conversations that have to be stopped. Make a list. And there's a form, I'll give you the link for the form on the blog, where you can download a form on how to list off your conversations that need to be stopped, and then come up with a strategy for how to stop it. One strategy is just to interrupt the conversation and say, oh, I gotta go. Another strategy is to redirect the conversation and move it in a different direction. Another strategy is to name what's been said. So if someone says something like, I never go to that side of town, the people over there don't like me, you can say, I think I heard you say that a whole race treats you the same way just because of who you are. Is that what you said? And then likely the person will say, no, that's not what I mean. I just had this experience, and then you stopped them. But what you have to do is figure out what you're going to do, when you hear it, and then do it. And here's the hardest part. The first few times you stand out and stop a conversation that's toxic, even one where you're engaging in gossip, or criticizing teachers, or parents, externalizing blame. But if the first time you stand up and you say, that conversation is not healthy, it might not go very well. You might feel uncomfortable doing it, and you might say the wrong things. And it might take you a while to get to the point where you can be the kind of person who says, no, this is not acceptable. We have to stop it. And has a smooth way of doing it. You won't be at ease with it at first. But Martin Luther King said, our lives begin to end when we become silent about things that matter. And if you want your life to end, you do it by not stepping up and saying things. If you take the courage to actually speak up and say, this is what I heard, and this is what I think, and respond to toxic conversations, eventually, people will know who you are, they'll know what they can't do, and in many cases, they'll change. So I'm going to encourage you to have the courage to stop hate by pointing it out when you hear it.